welcome back to my channel. Unfortunately, it's just not a good day today. My notes are deleted from my current video that I was about to make, because I just watched a video. I've spoken in the past about how I don't go to church, apart from online church, because I feel that the sermons can be outdated and I tend to lose interest. I have noticed, like, I'm quite an antsy person. I think I have like ADHD tendencies, and sitting down for an hour on a Sunday, I used to do it, I did it for so long, might be something I'll potentially get back into, I don't know, but I wanted to do a video on something called anti-fragile faith, respect and dignity from someone that might follow this sort of method of living, and even if you don't, just something to potentially have, like, I think this is just a good rule of thumb for anyone, because I'm always trying to find my level of where I sit on the religious scale, and I think I know where that is, to be fair, but I think it's something to put forward to anyone that might need it. So apparently, let's start with the respect things. I thought this was quite interesting, and it was by a pastor online. Just to preface it as well, I think it's always obviously important for the person. Oh, my window's open. I don't like speaking with my window open. It makes me think that my neighbours are going to judge me. So the first thing is that the respect thing is that someone... Oh, I've literally lost my train of thought there. I'm really, like, upset my neighbours hear me. It's okay. So just to preface, I do think everyone is due their own thoughts. Like, you can put your own thoughts out into the world. No one is going to express for you what you have in your head, so this is why YouTube is a great platform for me to do that, and just vent my own, like, thoughts anyway, regardless of who's listening. But obviously other people can relate, and it can be helpful if you do choose to do that, and I think that's just something important to keep in mind as well. So anyway, respect is something that you can have, according to this pastor, 3 types of respect. The first one is for your... what is it? The first one is for your... I wish I had the notes. The first one is for the fact they're a human being. That can be a level of respect that you can have for people, just for the fact in Catholics they say that people are in the image of God, made in the image of God, and we all are human. Having that level of respect, even if you don't like the person, I think there's a level of respect that comes from Catholicism that suggests that having a level of respect to someone just because they're a human being, not to say that you have to, like, worship them. And I think this is where I'm starting to see the difference between authority and things that are sort of like used for power, and things that disrupt authority and, like, sort of like make things... I'm not saying, like, it's not fun to have fun, and sometimes being a bit, like, you know, we all kind of, like, don't... it's not like we all have to be, like, perfect or whatever, but abuse of power is different to authority, and I'm starting to, like, make the lines add up a bit more in my head of that. So, because I think in school this is just something that, like, kind of comes up, but you just don't really remember that sometimes when you come out of school and you just go into, like, different environments. So yeah, not to say, like, you should necessarily, like, be, like, you know, this goes on to my second point, with the second level of respect is for someone's position. You may not have respect for an actual character of a person, like a teacher or a parent or anything. They might be a really bad person, like your boss could be a really bad boss and they could be really toxic and I've definitely been in that position, but I did still respect her as a person. It was even like I got attacked in a shop the other day by the manager for, like, being in there for, like, too long and not buying something or something. Like, it was a cheap shop, to be fair, and I don't know what the hell was on her mind, but it definitely wasn't called for. But the fact is, I respected her. I did kind of look at her and I was a bit, like, confused, and I did kind of tell her where it was at in a polite way, like, I don't think I've told this story, actually, it's on my camera, but yeah, I won't go into all the details of that now, but I kind of was just like, I was browsing, like, you know, but I still respected her as the manager of that shop, to the point where I wasn't going to shout at her or, you know, be out of line in that way, because it's her shop, just as I am within my rights to be in there, you know, being, you know, not being kicked out or anything. Like, anyway, that's a whole other story, but the fact is, having respect for someone's position, so even if they are bad, but they've been appointed by God, and I was thinking, like, the reason for this is that God does give gives them that position, and like in this day and age and the era we're in and everything, so easy to get in your head about like how you're blessed, and it's great to be grateful about how you're blessed, and we are in an astrological era where we like look to ourselves to understand life. That aside, it's easy to look at your blessings and the fact that you're entitled to certain stuff, or you've been given certain stuff and God's blessed you with certain things, or you feel blessed in life and you've got a great family and blah blah blah. But it's easy to forget other people's appointments of certain things, like being a teacher or being like a parent or whatever. It's so easy to judge someone's character before you even think about their appointment and the place that they are given in their position. Not to say you shouldn't correct them in their position if they're wrong. For example, if you have like a rude housemate or whatever, or like yeah, let's just use that as an example. If they're being just out of line for whatever reason, I don't really know, like anyone that's lived in a shared house might have like they're taking too long in the bathroom. I've definitely had that before, where they would take 50 minutes in the bathroom and not like say that they would get out of the bathroom, even though I couldn't use the toilet in the morning because they were in there doing whatever the hell they were doing for 50 minutes, which is too much. Well, that aside, that was a student house. I've definitely learned and grown from that experience. Don't give up your right as a housemate in a house that you pay equal wage for. Definitely stand your ground, because yeah, I just kind of let it go a bit because it was a student house, but I don't really care from now on. That's not happening. So anyway, so you can correct they might have a level of authority not authority, they have a level of appointment to be in that house with you at the same level as you, but if they are overstepping the rights that they have from that level, and it even kind of goes into sort of like students and stuff like that, like if they're overdoing their rite of passage, if that makes sense. Like that's why it's so important to kind of keep in line in a way. Like I feel like it's always good. I'm not saying like don't explore different avenues, don't do what you want to do in life, don't explore whatever jobs you want to do, don't work for yourself, blah blah. Like I'm not saying like this isn't like rules. This is like basic law of attraction even. Like, I mean, I don't really like to put Catholic stuff and law of attraction in the same boat, but if you do sort of do this, you're not going to get bad karma anyway if you do sort of like respect people's like position. And the third one is respect for character. If you do respect someone's character, they may have no authority, but you just have a respect for their character, how they act, how they think, how they treat you, how they conduct themselves, anything like that. So that's the third level of respect. And what was the other thing? And apparently, I didn't watch this whole episode of this thing, but he was talking about how common courtesy is actually very important in life, because it does. I didn't watch the whole video, so I don't know exactly, but it is true. Like you can change even from a surface level a lot about someone's experience if you do treat them in a certain way. If you treat them in a poor way, it can have a real impact on someone, rather than if you treat them in a positive way. Not to say that, like, I think there's a line here about if people are taking the piss, like if they are sort of overstepping that boundary, as they are, you know, being over, you know, stepping the mark, if you like. It's not to say that, I always think in the Bible it says like turn the other cheek, for example, so it's never, not to say you're not a human being and you won't get worked up, it's best not to. This brings me nicely on to the last point, which is anti-fragile faith, which is the idea of if you are fragile in your faith, not to say like you have to be, like they talk specifically about the Catholic Church in this video I was watching, for example, and as I said in the past, I've strayed away from church, come back to God without being in the church, because I think that sometimes it can be hypocritical the way things are told, and I didn't vibe with the whole old people in an old church, even though I do like to go into churches and pray and stuff, but like not into churches, but like into church grounds and stuff, don't get me wrong. But moving on, I definitely had to stray from it a little bit, because I found that I was sort of forced there to go for so many years because my parent was a Catholic. So the idea of anti-fragile faith is that there's this level of comfort that can come with knowing that like God is like with us, and if you believe that, and that God is sort of, you know, knows our plan and all that, and it can be very comfortable knowing that fact, and especially if you're brought up in a Catholic household, you can have this level of comfort that comes with security behind that, where certain people don't. So that's fine, but he likened it to being brought up in like a greenhouse, to like protect plants in like a greenhouse rather than like a, you know, place that wasn't protected, if that makes sense. But if that plant is then put into the harsh world which we do live in, it's easy to then like give up on faith and be like, oh, either God doesn't exist or he doesn't love me, for example. But building like the idea apparently is not to be resilient. I mean, it's good to be resilient, but things that come into life like are there for a reason. Like you might find that it's not about being resilient from these things. Obviously, you build resilience, but it's not to try and be resilient straight away. But it's not to be fragile. The way to be in the Catholic Church, apparently, how God wants us to be is anti-fragile, which is basically sort of like God. The idea of God puts us through our trials. I wish I had my notes. I literally wrote notes on this. But God puts us through our trials to get better and grow. Kind of like the idea of how if you go to the gym, you work your body and your body adapts to the environment or to the workout to kind of grow you into a stronger person. And that's kind of the idea behind anti-fragile faith, because if you are like just trying to hide away from everything, not to say like you shouldn't like be discerning of what you experience, and that's kind of comes again from experience, but the idea is like you would, you know, build discernment and be anti-fragile in the way you deal with it, rather than just being like, I can't deal with anything and whatever. Like that's not really where it comes from anyway, but there we go. So yeah, that's my little video. I thought this was quite interesting to learn. And again, if you're not Catholic, then I still think this point can sort of resonate for people, because I do think we live in a world where it's so easy to just forget about like respect for people sometimes, especially if you don't respect them, because there's a lot of people that I know that I don't respect, and like it's so easy to not respect someone because of personal beliefs and whatever, but they still are human beings, and it's not about a pity level, it's not about a sympathy level, it's about a, we're made in God's image, he is a divine thing, and we are all divine beings, but we are all made in different ways for God's own purpose, so that's also something to bear in mind. Anyway, that's my video. Thank you for listening. Bye.